Some games introduce features that are so revolutionary that they eventually become industry standards. Doom pioneered the FPS, Arkham Asylum pioneered one-button combat, and Apex Legends pioneered the ping system. The same may be said about Resident Evil 4's adjustable third-person camera. But the story behind it, as you'll find out in this video, might not be what you'd expect. So let's get right to it. First things first, Resident Evil 4 is probably the most important installment in the series. Resident Evil 4 is rightfully considered to be one of the most critically acclaimed and influential video games of all time. Capcom's soft relaunch of the Resident Evil franchise, released for the GameCube in 2004, before finding its way to what seemed like every system in existence, went through multiple unsuccessful prototypes before striking the right blend of action and survival horror. The radical switch in camera perspective introduced by Resident Evil 4 was one of the most defining changes in the franchise. Apart from titles like Survivor and Outbreak, the series previously concentrated exclusively on fixed camera perspectives, with pre-rendered backdrops offering a degree of realism and immersion that would not have been feasible otherwise. The action was moved to an over-the-shoulder camera perspective with the fourth mainstream release, which has since been replicated by many third-person action and survival horror games. The simple move was praised by players all around the world, contributing significantly to Resident Evil 4's critical and financial success. Apparently, creator Shinji Mikami didn't really think it was that big of a deal. Mikami was recently interviewed by Biohazard on their official YouTube channel for the upcoming Resident Evil 7 that he's the executive producer on. In case you didn't know, Mikami also wrote and directed the fourth Resident Evil game. While talking about RE4, he started going on about where that literal radical shift in perspective came from. He said the team simply felt that a moving third-person over-the-shoulder camera might work more effectively than the fixed camera angles used in the previous three main Resident Evil titles. And that's it. Mikami said that it seemed natural. Weirdly, they weren't planning on doing anything novel, but in the end, everyone claimed that they did. The team just decided that angle was superior. They weren't attempting something crazy or groundbreaking. That was the least of their concerns. He added that these things do take a time to sink in, but even then, it's not something you end up celebrating. You're not like, I did it. It's more like, this ought to work, I guess. Moving on, Masahiro Sakurai was the first to appreciate the camera system. Sakurai visited Capcom Studio Production 4 during the RE4's development and specifically singled out the game's camera system. Mikami said that the first person to applaud the camera system in RE4 was Masahiro Sakurai, the guy who produces the Super Smash Bros. Games. He came to the studio to check out the title and asked who decided to go with that camera system when he saw the game. Hey, yes, it was me, Mikami responded, raising his palm in the air. Sakurai then complimented the system, saying, "This is fantastic," to which Mikami expressed joy and delight. Takeuchi then recalled an encounter with Epic Games in 2008 at an E3 demo for Lost Planet. The crew allegedly contacted Takeuchi and asked why Lost Planet's camera system was not identical to Resident Evil 4's, to which Takeuchi responded that the two were totally different experiences. Epic Games then revealed that the camera system in Gears of War was heavily inspired by Resident Evil 4, and they were anxious to show Takeuchi the game. Now onto, Mikami wants to change game development culture. Mikami formed Tango Gameworks in 2010 and directed The Evil Within there. Mikami has now embarked on a more managerial position, serving as executive producer on both The Evil Within 2 and Ghostwire Tokyo. In his interview, he also discussed his two goals: to design sustainably built games that improve game development culture, and to develop another game of his own. Mikami said that he hasn't truly accomplished this yet. He wanted to build a new type of game for the next wave of creators that use principles of sustainable development. The United Nations established the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015 as a common roadmap for peace and prosperity for people and the planet. Goal 8 strives to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for everyone. This is most likely what Mikami is referring to. The adoption of a good game development culture is perhaps the most important factor for Mikami. You modify your methods based on the outcomes. You get good results and accept the method, but altering that culture is much more challenging. One of the things he wants to accomplish is to develop that sort of culture. Then, even if he retires, Tango Gameworks will have helped him fulfill one aim. Let's talk about that new game he wants to make. Mikami hasn't made the type of game he wants yet, in principle. That is what he wants to make happen. The man claimed in 2020 that he hopes to direct one more video game project before retiring, and that he has no shortage of ideas that aren't confined to the horror genre. Tango Gameworks development culture, and Japanese development culture in general, came under scrutiny last year when Ghostwire Tokyo's former creative director Ikumi Nakamura, who left the studio CEO in 2019 said she resigned because the stress of her job was affecting her health. When Nakamura worked at Capcom, her seniors would sleep beneath their desks to produce games because they were passionate to that point. And while that wasn't the case at Tango, the stress of her job was affecting her health. And you can't make games if you're sick. She began to wonder whether there was any way for her to design games while feeling better. As a result, she made the decision to leave before it was too late. This is probably the reason why Shinji is so enthusiastic about not just getting things done, but doing them the right way this time around. Now, moving on to other news. To kick things off, Tencent and Sony are investing heavily in From Software. Elden Ring was a long time coming, building on the groundwork put down by From Software's groundbreaking PS3 title, Demon's Souls, in 2009. The Dark Souls trilogy, as well as two other titles of a similar nature, significantly increased the audience for these challenging and enigmatic action RPGs. None, however, have achieved critical success quite like Elden Ring, which outsold household brands like Call of Duty and spawned hype that refuses to die. But Elden Ring was popular with more than just fans of From Software's famously challenging action RPGs. Tencent Holdings and Sony revealed today that they had bought 30% of the Soul series developer shares, divided in Tencent's favor. The agreement is estimated to net From Software $260 million. Sony and Tencent have just acquired 14.09% and 16.25% of FromSoft, respectively, according to Kadokawa. According to the statement, Kadokawa wants From Software to be able to further stretch its development activities. One of the goals is to provide FromSoft with the resources necessary to develop Elden Ring into a franchise that extends beyond video games. Maybe FromSoft can use the added allowance to add an easy mode to the game, so we can finally finish the damn thing. Also, the two companies have been on a spending spree lately. Tencent owns 5% of Ubisoft. The publisher of Assassin's Creed and Far Cry has completed a purchase of League of Legends producer Riot Games, owns 40% of Epic Games, and has investments in many more gaming firms. According to Polygon, it also owns 5% of Activision Blizzard, which will be transferred to Microsoft if that megacorp's significant bid to purchase the Call of Duty producer passes regulatory hurdles. Sony has also been in a spending frenzy, though it seems to be smaller in comparison to Tencent. Most notably, Sony paid $3.6 billion in January for the once Microsoft-affiliated Bungie. Bluepoint, the company that created a reputation for itself with highly praised remakes, was also acquired by Sony. And lastly, for its 20th anniversary, the original Mafia will be available for free on Steam. In honor of Mafia's 20th anniversary, 2K Games is offering the original open-world game for free on Steam for a short period from September 1st to September 5th. This announcement comes after 2K Games announced in May that a new Mafia game is in the works. Though the new game is still in early production, we do know that it will be built using Unreal Technology 5, rather than the Mafia 3 engine used in the remaster. We also know that it has the internal codename Nero, and that it will be a prequel to the Mafia trilogy. That's a wrap for this video. Are you excited for the upcoming RE4 remake? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.